Hello, I'm V-Shing from DVS. Welcome to my video. Today I'm going to talk about my experience using hardware video switch for live streaming. At the end of the day, in my target workflow, I have 5 targets to achieve. The source, how many sources I need to do it. Target, what type of I want to go out to. Okay. Then how easy to use it, or to learn, or to teach the next person. And whether there is some growth potential, because you just want to keep the switcher as long as possible. You buy a switch that is just perfect for certain thing, but when the time you want to do another thing, you cannot do it because you already limited your growth potential. You already buy what is that thing for, and you cannot do more than that. That's why another important thing is the growth potential. And lastly is the cost. So these 5 things is my target workflow. So my review will talk about it, and I will conclude how interesting or how it fit to the workflow. The next product from Blackmagic design is ATEM Mini Pro, behind the word Pro. It looks the same as Blackmagic ATEM Mini. Source wise, input wise, it's the same. You have 4 HDMI input, so it's supported my target of 2 camera, 1 computer, and 1 extra. And it also support audio input because it have 2 3.5 stereo mini jack, which can connect directly from a microphone or from the audio mixer. For your information, the third audio source, it can come from the camera by itself. So the camera have the microphone. You can actually connect to a camera. Camera on there come out as a HDMI embedded all the way to the switch, and you can use the ATEM Mini, whether it's a Pro or the Mini, to switch it on or off. That it wants the audio from the source, camera source. It can be done. Let's talk about target. Blackmagic ATEM Mini Pro biggest advantage over ATEM Mini is ATEM Mini Pro have built-in live streaming encoder. ATEM Mini don't have. How we connect? All to do is connect the ATEM Mini Pro through the Ethernet port. Alright. The same Ethernet port, you can use the software controller to control it. But the good news is the notebook that you use are not doing the streaming. The streaming is from the switcher itself. Alright. So there's no clash of CPU processing. You only stream out. So all the workload are done in the Blackmagic Mini, ATEM Mini Pro, not on the notebook that you connect to it. Unlike the ATEM Mini, the notebook are doing the encoding and the streaming. In a Mini Pro, the notebook are not doing it. Okay, so that's the beauty about ATEM Mini Pro. It can do stream because you have a built-in streaming encoder hardware inside there. And at the same time, it can do recording of the same quality to do streaming. It can do. All to do is connect to the same USB 3 port. All right, you can connect to an external hard drive, and in the recording function, you can just click that it's through this hard drive. It will record to the hard drive. So You don't need to use the HDMI out for that purposes, for recording. The switch itself is ready for the recording. So target wise, it achieves two important things. It can do live streaming, it can do
live recording
by the device itself. No need to purchase another recorder or get another computer or get another streaming devices for it. It can do it by itself. So the HDMI output now is in this ATEM Mini Pro have give you the option whether you want to have an output as a program or multi-viewer out or AUX out. For those who are not familiar with the word AUX, in this case AUX output is actually
the video input.
So HDMI out from the ATEM Mini Pro can have output as a program, multi-viewer or AUX out. So with multi-viewer output is very nice because you can actually preview all the input. But the drawback about ATEM Mini Pro, I only can do only one out because I only have one HDMI out. So I only can choose one of them, whether it's program, multi-viewer or AUX out. So it has its limitation. Easy to use? Yes, it is easy to use. ATEM Mini Pro, like I say, as long you use on the device, it's very easy to use. Just now I talking about the streaming and the recording. If you preset everything, for example, every week I stream to this particular CDN, and every time I really connect to external hard disk, I don't need to do anything. I don't need to use a software controller to go inside. There's a button there for you to trigger, to do recording, to switch on the recording, or switch off the recording, and the same with the streaming. There's a button there in that device itself. So I don't need to be more complicated. You just press, as long the network is connected correctly and is connected to the USB hard disk correctly, you can trigger both without need to do anything or need to go in the computers, use the software controller to change, to do anything. It's on the device itself. Likewise, the switch between the camera 1, 2 and 3, 4, I mean the 4 input, is directly on the switch itself. But it has the same problem with ATEM Mini. If I want to change the picture size, I want to change the layout, reposition, I want to change the channel for the picture, you need to use the ATEM software control to do it. Because of that, I did not rate it quite high. As long as you don't need to touch the software, it's very easy. Growth protection. Again, you have the same problem with ATEM Mini. It's only one spare HDMI out. Okay. So if you need to have more output, you can use the HDMI out, program out using an amplifier distributor to distribute out. But if you want to free that HDMI out for monitoring purposes, for multi-viewer purposes, you can actually buy ATEM streaming bridge. We will use the internet output, the same thing you use for your streaming. You can use that to connect to this device, and this device have 3 more output, 2 SDI, 1 HDMI out. So you don't need to use the HDMI out for that purposes. So I can use this ATEM streaming bridge to connect to my recorder or an other projector. But everything is still restricted to the program. Right? So when I want recording for all the 4 input, included the program out, you cannot do it with Blackmagic ATEM Mini Pro. You need to buy another product series called ATEM Mini Pro ISO, which will allow you to do this recording that I mentioned about. In other words, growth potential is by that device itself is quite limited. Whatever you need to improve, to grow, you need to get a new switch for it, or add on a new hardware to supplement it. All right. Again, it's also quite limited. Cost-wise, ATEM Mini Pro is slightly more expensive. It's actually double the price of ATEM Mini. But for your information, it's still cheaper compared to a lot of other brands outside, especially the popular professional brand. I talk about Blackmagic ATEM Mini and Blackmagic ATEM Mini Pro. There's a new one we just announced only a few days ago, ATEM Mini Pro ISO. Basically, it gives you the additional features of multiple recording, but the rest are quite same with ATEM Mini Pro. How about Blackmagic ATEM Mini Pro? Cost-wise, it's just slightly more expensive compared to ATEM Mini, but it has a built-in live streaming and recording capability. This recording ability is a good option and is fit on my target workflow. It's supported for HDMI input, which also fit to my target workflow of 2 cameras, 1 computer. I still got 1 more spare. But it has the same weakness as the ATEM Mini. Because of the limited output, it gives you a limited growth potential. It has multi-viewer output option, which is very good. All right. So you can allow user to see and check the input before you switch to that channel. And because it have come out recently announced ATEM streaming bridge, which actually use the Ethernet port output to create additional output, it's quite, growth is quite there, but you need to add on your cost. So in short, ATEM Mini Pro is again designed for live streaming. To be more precise, multiple camera production for live streaming and recording. But again, because it has a limited output, you cannot connect to a bigger workflow. I personally prefer a workflow that is included controlling the projection output and included to have it can grow more, because in church, beside our weekly Sunday service, we're bound to have our other event, things like Christmas, Easter, or some concert that we need to do, which may require more cameras and more computers input. So 4 is quite limited in that. It limited the growth in that. Same to picture-in-picture. Blackmagic ATEM Mini and Mini Pro both support the picture-in-picture, but only can do 1 picture-in-picture. and it cannot do picture-in-picture and luma key at the same time. Luma key may be for titling purposes. You cannot do both these on top of each other. It must be picture-in-picture or titling. This what I'm not very happy about Blackmagic ATEM Mini. Of course, Blackmagic design have ATEM with ME1, ME2, and a bigger brother, which is cost more expensive. It can do more. But my review is on reasonable price hardware switch. So Blackmagic Mini fit that criteria. But the reasonable cost factor also means that's limited in growth or limited in features. So this is where you have to see and whether you accept this limitation. If you accept this limitation, the cost is not a problem. When the products hardware switch that have more features, okay, it also means the cost will go up. But in ATEM Mini Pro, you have very good cost factor, but you have very weak features. So please think about it, discuss about it. Is it fit to your requirement? Or if you want, like I say, growth potential, I want to use it for 10 years, whether I can grow accordingly, or if I need to expand later, I must also aware of the cost that I need to involve in it. So this is my review of this Blackmagic ATEM Mini and Mini Pro. I hope you learn something about it. I hope you can aware the workflow, the style that you require, and see fit for the requirement now and the future. For anything else, you can still email me. That's all for today. I'm V-Shing from DVS. Goodbye. Thank you. God bless.